we teased this. De'Aaron Fox now traded to the Spurs.
Good for him.
So here on Hold My Banner, we went through all of this drama. So there were other pieces to this as well, but the big one, De'Aaron Fox on the move to the Spurs. Bulls, Zach LaVine goes to the Kings. So let's talk about this, because here on Hold My Banner, we had laid out the De'Aaron Fox drama. Mm-hmm. Reports had come out. He wanted to go to the Spurs. He was buying houses in San Antonio. He's like, I'm playing with Wemby. Regardless if I get traded here or not, I will sign with the Spurs as a free agent. I am not signing an extension with the Kings. So we talked on here, well, you can't just force your way to places, i.e. Jimmy Butler. More on him later in the program. But you can't force yourself to places. So they're going to trade you where they trade you to, where they can get the best value. Well, sure enough, he gets his wish. He ends up with the Spurs. And remember, Ante, De'Aaron Fox denied all these reports.
Yes.
We found out false. You wanted to go to the Spurs because that's what you got. I will say this. Good for the Spurs. Unlike where Ante said lose-lose, Lakers, Mavs, in his opinion, on this trade, I think it's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox just wanted to go to the Spurs. He's going to be happy with the Spurs. He'll sign an extension there. And him and Wemby, you want to talk about a 1-2 punch. I know we're talking about LeBron and Luka, but my God, De'Aaron Fox and Wemby work stylistically. Seems like their personalities should, in theory, mesh. Mm-hmm. I just think this is a huge, huge win for the Spurs. They are back. They may not necessarily be winning championships back, but they are relevant. They will be a consistent playoff team. And we all know if you make the playoffs in the NBA, you got a shot. Okay, so the Spurs are back. For the Kings, I don't necessarily think Zach LaVine and DeRozan stylistically work.
I mean, we saw it already.
I know, but I'm just saying.
You're right.
Big picture. Mm-hmm. However, they're two bona fide stars, and you do have Sabonis. So I still like that there's a big three intact there. And to George's point, I like that they got a return for De'Aaron Fox. I mean, think about this. He's holding their feet to the fire as a franchise. I want to go here, I want to go here. And they still got a really good return on him.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mavs could have learned from that, right? So I like what the Kings are doing in terms of the future, and I am interested to see LaVine in the playoffs, because I do think the Kings are going to make the playoffs still, and I want to see. Everyone calls him a loser. You never won anything. You're just empty calories. Okay, well, go prove that maybe some contenders should be looking at you, Zach LaVine. You'll have your chance. I think they will make the playoffs, and I want to see him ball out in the playoffs. This is a win-win, but the Spurs want it better. What do you say, Tay?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about the Kings situation just because, I've seen LaVine and DeRozan without a point guard before in Chicago, because Lonzo got hurt, Caruso got hurt, and they were left without a point guard.
Right.
This Kings roster now does not really have a point guard anymore. You know what I mean? It might be Malik Monk. I don't know who's going to start. You know what I mean? It might be Keon Ellis. We don't know. They might play through, you know what I mean, Sabonis, like you were saying, and, he might be the point guard kind of in a Jokic role where, these guys bring it up, but he's really the point guard and we're playing through him, right?
Sure.
Which they didn't have in Chicago.
Right.
Vucevic is great big, but he's not that kind of a playmaking big.
Right.
So I'm a little nervous about that situation, but I do agree with you. I do think this is a win-win-win trade, because you can't forget about the Chicago Bulls here finally buying into the tank. I mean, finally buying into the tank.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, they're 3 seasons too late, but they're finally buying into the tank.
They finally are.
And so with the Kings getting a gaggle of picks back, still being a playoff team, like you said, hopefully maybe they're not done at this deadline. Maybe they go try to get a point guard who can help them out.
Maybe.
And, smooth over this transition. I mean, the Spurs, maybe they trade with them again because they got a gaggle of point guards at this point. Or maybe one of those point guards get waived by the Spurs and they pick them up. So, I do like this from that position. And, of course, from the Spurs position, I love this. Wemby and De'Aaron Fox. What more can you ask for? I love Stephon Castle still being there. I love that they kept Devin Vassell. They kept Keldon Johnson. They kept a lot of their young wings as well in this deal, which was really, really surprising for them. They didn't have to give up much. I mean, Zach Collins, okay. You know what I mean?
Tre Jones, get out of here.
Bye. You know what I mean?
Wait, you don't like City Sissoko and his outlook down the line?
Who?
No,
3 minutes a night, City Sissoko.
I'm not worried about City Sissoko. You know what I'm saying? So, it is what it is in that situation. So I really do like this deal for the Kings as well.
That's what jumped out to me in all this.
Me.
Yeah, for the Spurs. That's what jumped out to me on all this. I was like, wait, Stephon Castle stayed in San Antonio?
Yeah.
Because the Spurs have 6 or 7 players, I believe, scoring 10 or more points.
Yeah.
And out of those guys, you have Wemby, who's 21, Stephon Castle, who's 20, Devin Vassell might be 21, and then Keldon Johnson, who you mentioned, I think he's 24, 25.
Yeah.
They have such a young core now. And then you have De'Aaron Fox, who isn't even 28 or 29 yet.
Crazy.
Like, he's going to be there the next 5 years.
That's crazy.
Yes, he's a score-first guard, but that's also a guy that can play in the pick and roll with Victor Wembanyama. And this is a defensive liability, but you just paired him up with a shot eraser and one of the best defensive players in the league, if not the best defensive player in the league. Like, you can cover up those deficiencies. This was such a good trade by the Spurs. They kept the young core.
Yep.
They obviously continued to get better around their future supernova superstar
Right.
Yep.
who could future be the best player in the league. I think he will be that.
I do too.
And you brought in a guy that's a leader that has playoff experience. And you know what this says about De'Aaron Fox? He wants to win.
That's
Yes.
what I'm
He
saying.
wanted to go to San Antonio.
That's right.
Miami, Boston, Knicks,
Yeah.
you name it. All these places. He wanted to go to San Antonio.
Yeah, dude.
The
His wife-
Spurs won this. Hey, Western Conference Finals by 2026. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Yep.
be remiss to not mention that his wife is from San Antonio. He's actually wearing number 4 to pay homage to his wife, who wore 4 at Texas Tech. So
My man with the research. Love it.
He is from, he does have
Right.
a little bit of ties to San Antonio.
And I don't
But I'm
want to
with
get
you.
into it. The dynamic of breadwinners, though. Like, if my wife's a lawyer,
Right.
and I'm from San Antonio, but she's like, but I got this job at this firm.
He's also from Houston. He's
No,
also
but you
from
get
Houston.
it's San Antonio.
But-
It's not Austin,
He could
Texas.
have
the
forced
street
the
from
Rockets.
Texas.
He could have forced the Rockets. He didn't do that.
No, but
I'm just saying all of it, but I get what you're saying. Tim.
Yes,
respect. Like,
that's
it
all
worked.
I'm saying. And I love this deal for him once again because this team. I mean, I didn't even mention that they kept Jeremy Shaw on as well. You know what I'm saying? This team has an opportunity to be
21
a
years
force
old
in this playoffs. Like, depending on how the rest of this season shakes out, and they might surprise a lot of people. It might get a couple wins, maybe even win a series in the playoffs with De'Aaron Fox joining this team. So, what a great get by the San Antonio Spurs.
By the way, guys, I mean, not for nothing. We don't know. Popovich is dealing with health issues.
Right.
That could be a really intriguing head coaching
yes,
vacancy.
vacancy.
If that's to happen, if Pop goes ahead and retires and said, hey, listen,
Right.
I would imagine someone like him has a succession plan, probably someone in house that he likes.
I'm trying to think of
which
who would
is
be
great.
who would be that top head coach out there.
Well, I don't know who they have in
Yeah.
house.
But to your point, it's a coveted job. It's not just Wemby; it's this roster.
That's right.
Like
Okay.
this is such a good job by the Spurs.